Hey guys, how's it going? Stacks here. So today we're going to talk about the potential origin for the Bowie knife. A lot of people, myself included, believe that the design for this blade was primarily influenced by the Spanish Navaja. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Spanish Navaja, its uses, how it differed than the American Bowie knife, and what I think led to the evolution of what we call today the Bowie or Bowie. Now, I actually don't have a Spanish Navaja with me. I actually don't even really have many folder knives. I have one in my EMS kit, but I don't feel like taking that apart. So I'm actually going to use a straight razor, which I actually think for the purposes of this video is going to illustrate the use of the Navaja even better. Now, the sources that we have for the Navaja is the Manual de Baratero, and it's a book that describes a little bit of how the Spanish Barateros use the Navaja to fight. So first off, one of the most interesting things about the Navaja, it was a folding knife, right? And it was actually the size of what we see today for most Bowies. They were fairly big, but still concealable. Okay, so I want you to imagine something like this size, okay? And what we know about it is that the book says specifically that the Navaja is primarily a cutting knife. Okay, it is not really a thrusting knife. What they actually used for thrusting was actually a pair of scissors, was very common for them. And for the Navaja, when they did thrust, they would normally thrust to very soft areas like the belly. The reason why they didn't trust the thrust as much is because it is a folding knife, and even though it did have a locking mechanism, they were afraid it would close in on their fingers if they thrusted to an area that was hard. They were afraid of it essentially breaking that locking mechanism. So for those purposes, the Navaja was primarily a slashing tool. The thrust that they did utilize, one of them is called the Posada Soto, and it works well if you're a shorter fighter. For me, I'm 6'2". It doesn't really work well for me. But basically, if someone's coming with a very committed attack on a high line, basically you put your lead, your rear leg all the way back, and you plant your hand on the ground while delivering a thrust upward to the belly. Another thing that they would do is they would take off their hats and throw it, and then when the person would be distracted, that's when they would come in for the thrust to the belly. So the next is the cuts, right? How would they use this to cut? Well, not surprisingly, primarily they would cut the hand of the opponent, okay? When the opponent comes to attack you, right, you would counter cut. And obviously, this is what we know today in the Filipino martial arts as defang the snake. The Spanish were so good at this that it was said the worst cut you could get was to your face, because that meant that your skills at cutting at the hand were so poor that you weren't able to defend yourself while your opponent got that deep of a target on your face. And for your opponent, it would be like like a very flashy move, and it was considered to be a very flashy move that you were able to get in that deep without getting your hand cut. And for you, it would be like the most embarrassing thing, you know what I mean, that he was able to get that deep in range to slash your face. So another interesting thing that they would do with it, and this one I'm not going to demonstrate with this because this is a live blade, so I'll demonstrate with just a wooden tanto. So as they would, be slashing their hand, another trick that they would do is they would switch the hands and then cut with the other side, right? And they were constantly circling, right, seeking new angles, right, and trying to feint with a cut to the hands. So that is a general idea of how it was used. The Spanish, even with their rapiers, were known to be very big on cutting motions, and as opposed to the Italians and the French, which were very thrust oriented, right, and very linear in their footwork. And you even see that in the Filipino martial arts, being a blend of Spanish and indigenous, like Kung Tao, Silat styles. You still see that Spanish influence from the knife fighting. Now, what I believe what happened is that when it came to America, Jim Bowie, his brother, or whoever it was that designed the Bowie knife, I think what they wanted to do was take the design, which was imported from Spain into Mexico. There's actually a book called 6 Inches, or a newspaper article called 6 Inches of Steel, that talks about Mexican knife fighters. And what they did is that they added a handguard, so you could add the thrust work, right? Obviously, a fixed blade is going to be much more stronger, and it's not going to fold in like a folding blade onto your hands. And now with the guard, you could actually, put in your thrust work as well from the French style fencing, right? And it's just, really becomes a great weapon, because you have both sides potentially sharpened, false edge, and you have really, full thrust and cut capabilities. So it's kind of nice, and that's why it's such a highly recognized, formidable fighting weapon. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you disagree, tell me what you think. If you do agree, write your comments below, and tell me why you disagree or agree with me. All right, everybody. If you liked the video, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.